everyone. So, last week's episode being late has now got me behind, and I'm not quite ready to upload this week's episode. So, I've decided to save it until next week to make sure it's perfect. I didn't want to leave you guys hanging though. So, I am going to have a collaboration that I've done back in the day with Lorraine Purdon. We covered The Ring, both American versus Japanese version. But before we jump into it, I wanted to talk merch with you. First, let's talk about the staple. There's the black crew neck with a pocket, and it just has Killer Stories in white. Everybody's got to have one. And then we have tie-dye. So she has it available in a t-shirt, long-sleeved, crew neck, and a hoodie sweatshirt. You can also choose which tie-dye color combinations you would like. If you don't make a notation, it will be as pictured. But if you go to the drop-down menu at Freedom Street Boutique, it will say tie-dye blanks, and you can choose your color combination and style. Just make the notation when you're making your order. Also, big thanks to Billy G, who bought me 5 beers at buymeacoffee.com. Your generosity is greatly appreciated. Now for today's episode.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Once Upon a Nightmare. This week I am joined by a very special guest where we are going to discuss 2 films. We're going to compare The Ring versus The Ring. So this week I am joined by Bobbie from the Killer Stories podcast. Hi Bobbie.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. I've had 3 Cosmos, so if I sound a bit funny, that's why.
Hey, I'm right with you. I've got my IPAs. This is number 2.
Yeah, but the difference is it's 8:50 p.m. here. What time is it where you are?
1:54.
Exactly.
So I am a day drinker. It's normal.
I do like a bit of day drinking, actually.
Yes.
I do like a bit of day drinking. So why don't you tell everyone about your podcast so they can go listen?
Yes. So I host a true crime podcast. It's not any distinct theme like our friend with the British murders or Up North or dedicated to any one type of true crime. It's really widespread. So most of what I do is American stories, I would say, but I have dabbled in some international cases, which is always fun to try to speak the language of the other countries. I've had the French one recently, and it's always somebody from that country that, suggests it to me. And so they'll send me a little voice memo telling me how to pronounce things, which is very helpful.
Oh, that's handy.
Yeah, it is. It is, because it's difficult. I'm on Google all the time, how to pronounce.
No, I know. And people, like, if I hear, because I'm English and I listen to podcasts, American podcasts, and they pronounce words a certain way. But when they say it wrong, I just find it quite cute. I'm like, oh, like, do you know what I mean? I don't get offended. Where some people get really offended. Like, I saw a review for one girl and they were like, you really need to check your pronunciation. And I was like, oh, for God's sake. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, I think it's funny. I think it's funny when people can't.
I try, but I also make the statement like, this is not my first language. Bear with me.
Even when you try and do it, learn before you come on and do the episode, you still struggle sometimes. I do anyway.
Right. Yes.
So
yes,
because of the topic me and you are doing, and one of the versions, as mentioned in my intro, is The Ring versus The Ring, America and Japan. There may be some names.
I know, right?
There's Japanese names.
I know.
So that's
and like I said, in my notes say like the reporter, the ex-husband, because I wrote their names down, but I don't know that I can even say them to be honest.
Yeah. No, I know.
They were in subtitles and said very, very quickly in Japanese. So it's hard to catch.
I also thought with some of the subtitles, I was like, are they really saying that? Because some of it looked the translation looked a bit dodgy.
Yeah. Or like chopped up. Yeah. It didn't come across as correct.
No, it didn't, did it? It kind of almost like played it down a bit. with what was going on. It didn't seem as serious. So yeah, the translation wasn't as good. But anyway, I'll give a little kind of few lines on it. So The Ring, or Ringu, the original, was released in 1998 and was directed by Hideo Nakata and was written by Hiroshi Nakashi. It's a 15 and runs for less time than the US version, an hour and 38 minutes. It's based on the novel of the same name written by Koji Suzuki, which was published in 1991. The Ring US was directed by Goran Verbinski and was written by Aaron Kruger and released in 2002. It is a 15-2 and runs for just under 2 hours. It had a budget of around $48 million and made just under $250 million. It stars Naomi Watts as Rachel and Nanako Matashumi as Riko, both journalists. They are both the aunt of a young girl who mysteriously dies after watching a videotape that claims you will die in 7 days. After discovering other kids who watched the tape have also died, the only logical thing for Rachel/Riko to do is to watch the tape themselves, after which they both receive a call saying they will die in 7 days. Both now have 7 days to unravel the mystery to save their lives.
Yeah, so I noticed in the Japanese version, I feel like they called her by her last name, Asakawa. But maybe
I just looked on IMDb.
Right. So I just noticed, like, he said her name and like patted, like, come over here, and I wrote that down, Asakawa, like, who is this? And then when I googled it and I saw it was her last name, I was like, oh, so I don't know if that's common that they call her by her last
names in Japan.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. So overall, did you like both these films? Or one more than the other? Or...
I like the idea of both these films. I'll be honest, I just watched the Japanese version since we've made this decision to record, and I liked the American one when it came out. It was like one of my favorite movies, and I have not probably watched it since. I still really liked it. I thought the Japanese one was boring. I'm not gonna lie, and I had so many people tell me, oh, it's so much scarier, you have to watch Ringu, the Japanese version. And I was disappointed.
I agree 100%. Apart from the
fact, good.
I preferred the American version because I just don't think it translated well. Like I said, like some of the subtitles, I was like, I don't feel like that's what they're actually saying. I remember watching The Ring when it first came out, and I thought it was all right. I actually preferred it this time around, if I'm honest with you. I didn't watch it again since that. But when I was watching, I actually messaged you. Did I message you? I messaged someone and I was like, this is so boring. It was just so boring. And
well, I told you, I was like, I'm so sorry I picked this. I feel like it's super boring. I feel like the American version had so much more going on. But I don't know.
No, I agree.
I feel like theirs is more simplistic. Even the video, which we'll get to that, but like 3 or 4 scenes, whereas the American one is like crazy, scary, weird thing one after another that I don't know.
Yeah, no, I found myself in the American version kind of more on my toes, like wondering what was going to happen. It was like even like the very first scene with the 2 girls that, you know, they're talking about how they've seen this and stuff like that and winding each other up. But when they go downstairs, it's really creepy. Like you're really, you think something's going to happen then. You don't think it's going to happen when it happens. And I like that about horror films. When I think it's going to happen and it doesn't, and then it does later, I think it's great because it catches you unawares. And that's the whole point of being scared, really, isn't it? You don't expect it. But with this one, like, I don't know, maybe if we'd watched the Japanese one first, we might not have felt that way, but I watched the American one first. But the 2 girls in the Japanese one at the beginning, it just didn't translate. And I wasn't scared. And maybe because I knew what was going to happen. I don't know. I just didn't.
Right. And like I said, I saw The Ring, the American version, when it first came out. And this time around, I tried to watch it in order. I did watch the Japanese one first, and then I watched the American one just because I was like, oh, I want to watch the original. And then I watched the remake kind of thing. Yeah. So, and I knew what happened, but not exactly, like I couldn't remember. And so it was still kind of somewhat new, or like a reminder, like, oh yeah, that happened. But when I was watching the very beginning, with the 2 girls, same thing. The Japanese one, it was just kind of lackluster, I guess. Even their faces, like, whenever they die and their face becomes all distorted. I just feel like the American version, they upped it a bit. Like you can see it's almost just like their mouth was hanging open and their eyes are like turned weird in the Japanese one, where the American one, it's like, oh, they're almost like rotten looking.
Yeah, like they've been there for months.
The gore kind of up a bit. And this is not a gory movie. It's not a slasher movie. No one is murdered or killed in that way. It's more just the urban legend factor that kind of gets it for me, that I don't know. Growing up, did you ever do like Bloody Mary? Look in the mirror and say Bloody Mary 3 times and she's supposed to appear. Like that kind of thing's always interesting.
I did Candyman.
Oh, okay.
I did Candyman. I didn't do Bloody Mary. But I did Candyman. But things like that never really. It's weird because like I am into the whole kind of like, haunted, paranormal, and all that kind of stuff. I do think there's something there. I'm not like fully into it, like, but when I watch stuff like this, it's like I was never into, because like obviously when this came out, kind of like this whole Asian horror thing with The Grudge, The Eye, Dark Water and stuff. I didn't really like a lot of them. I thought they were all right, but they never did anything for me.
Yeah.
And everyone always goes on about Japanese horror and how scary it is and stuff like that. And I was like, well, it's not. And then after watching the Japanese version, I was like, there's nothing scary about this.
I didn't think so. I mean, and both movies, it's like the last 25 minutes is it's a lot of waiting for something to happen. And I don't think I realized that the first time I watched it, because you don't know what's going to happen. But this time I knew what was going to happen. So I was like, when's that happening? But just a lot of waiting in especially the Japanese one. But again, it's not my language. Subtitles, I feel like that might play a role in our opinion.
And plus, I think for me anyway, personally, when I watch a film with subtitles, I have to really be in the mood. Like I'm not against films with subtitles. I've watched many films with subtitles that I've enjoyed, but you have to, because I'm not very good at like sitting and watching. I have to kind of be doing something. Whereas when you watch a film with subtitles, you obviously have to watch it because you need to read what they're saying.
Right.
So I find it difficult with that. And also there was kind of like at the beginning with, Naomi Watts's version. She comes across like, because I actually found myself going, is she his mom or is she his sister, or
because he calls her Rachel?
Yeah, but
is that not so weird that her own son is not like mom?
But it wasn't even so much her name, it was the way she was with him. With the other version, I felt like she was too happy. Like she didn't come across as kind of like that kind of like, because Naomi Watts' character seems a bit messed up.
Yeah. She doesn't seem very motherly.
Not an ounce of it.
No, not at all.
No.
And then like when she goes into the school, like when the teacher calls her in and shows her the pictures that he's been drawing because his cousin literally just died 3 days ago, which I would probably have my son still at home if he was really close to somebody and they just died. Anyways, he's back at school. Yeah. This is him expressing himself and the pictures are disturbing and that's fine. But she just doesn't seem overly concerned about anything, not very motherly. And like I said, the little kid, so Aiden is his name in the American version, and Yoshi, I think it is. Yoshi in the Japanese one. But in the American version, Aiden creeps me out. He's got like dark circles under his eyes. He just looks creepy.
It's like Children of the Corn type creepy.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that as well, because in the Asian version, no. He doesn't
I'm like, oh,
he was a cute little kid. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, he's so cute.
Right.
Whereas with the other guy, I was like, I actually was, because I couldn't remember a lot of it, the American one. I find myself going, does he do something? Does he do something to them because of how unbelievably creepy he was?
And then might be jumping ahead here, I don't know. But as far as who has abilities, I feel like that differs from Japanese to American version, because the reporter, so the Naomi Watts character, or the Asakawa, her name is, the ex-husband in the Japanese version has abilities. But Noah in the American one, am I wrong? I feel like he does not. I didn't miss something, did I?
I didn't even realize the Japanese one did.
Yes, I believe so. Because they didn't realize when Yoshi said so-and-so told him to watch the video, they're like, oh, he must have the abilities too. And don't you remember he put his hand on top of the tomb and could see?
Oh, yeah.
So not only jumping way ahead, but the woman in the mirror has abilities, the ex-husband has abilities, the child has ability, and the girl, the daughter has abilities in the Japanese version. Whereas the American version, it seems to just be Aiden, the son, and Samara. So
I'll be honest with you, with the ex in the Japanese version, I really struggled to pay any attention to him whatsoever. I just thought he was so distant, because when you watch the American one, you feel like he's really trying, and he kind of wants to get to know his kid, and there's something behind the eyes. Whereas with the Japanese version, I was just he just seemed so disconnected.
Well, a little bit, but they had the same scene where outside of the home, the kid and the dad meet in the street.
Yeah.
But it's raining. They have umbrellas. They look at each other. They don't say a word, and they pass each other. Yeah. So it's kind of like, I don't think either of them had a hand in his life. It seemed, up until that point anyways, it didn't seem so.
Yeah, but it felt like I can't remember the ex's name now. I felt like he in the American version.
We can refer to American one. It's Noah.
Noah, that's his name. Yes. So I feel like Noah was a bit more even invested with what's her name? Rachel. Like he seemed to genuinely care, whereas the other guy, he just seemed really irritated all the time. And
especially towards the end, he did seem like he cared a lot more.
I just did, but most of the way through, I just find myself going, I do not like you. Whereas I like
even the point where they click, like, I believe you. This tape is real. I think that's when Noah became a nicer guy. Whereas in the Japanese one, he's a dick the whole way through.
He is a dick, and I just couldn't get on board with him. And I just found myself, whenever he was on, I was just like, I don't even want to look at you. Like, do you know what I mean? It was just like, I really I just didn't like him at all.
You.
One thing I did find that I think that it got into it all very quickly. I thought the beginning was too rushed. I felt like it was like, the girls died, there was a tape, let's go full into an investigation. It just didn't seem natural to me at all in the American version. It didn't. There was nothing that felt natural about it at all. It was just like, I felt like there could have been a bit more to it before we got in. She went into it just like I can understand if a relation of yours dies, you want to get to the bottom of it, but that's if they've been shot or murdered or something. Like, do you know what I mean? Not if they've died because they watched a videotape.
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, just the way, so it's Rachel's sister is Katie. Katie's the girl that died, mother. And she's like, I saw her face. Something wasn't right. So it is kind of a mystery.
Yeah.
Because how, like she said, a 16-year-old girl's heart does not just stop. Like, what happened? And just like I said, her face it almost looks like distorted and decayed almost. It just looks not right.
Did Rachel see a picture of her, of the daughter?
Know. I don't. I feel like maybe it just went by the word of her sister, but
because that's the thing. Like, obviously, a 16-year-old dying, because it can obviously, unfortunately, happen. But obviously, the face thing you wouldn't be used to seeing. But I think I would feel like I would be more. She's just like upset and saying stuff like, "Oh, you should have seen her," this type of thing, which is a normal thing to do. And it just, but maybe, you would kind of, maybe she was just humoring her sister, like, okay, I'll do this. Because obviously she was devastated. But I kind of was like, oh, we're here already. And it just felt all of a sudden it was just in my face. And I was like, oh, right, okay. And I didn't like that. I felt like I needed to, because I'd recently watched the film Wolf Creek, and that kind of spent about 2/3 of the film before you actually got the stuff you needed, whereas this kind of was 10 minutes type thing.
Right. Right. Well, it's like I said, maybe it's just the middle is just stuff because it jumps into that in the beginning and then all the like crazy stuff is right at the end.
Yeah. So what did you think of the actual video then?
So let me go to my notes because I actually wrote down every step of both videos so that we could kind of compare. I take good notes.
You take
okay,
brilliant
so
notes.
in the Japanese version, there's a woman sitting in the mirror and she's brushing her hair, and then Japanese writing pops up on the screen, which they did later in my notes. They discover what it says, and then it shows men crawling, and there's a man with a white cap over his head, almost like a KKK hat, but it's like flat, like it's not pointed. It's just like a white, almost like a little sheet over his head. There's an eye that pops up that says Sada or Seda written on it. Then you see the well, and then there's white noise. So relatively short compared to the American version, which I go to that. And it opens with the view of you looking inside of the well, and you see the ring. Then then there's red flowing water. Like it's not blood. It's like more liquidy. Then there's a chair. Hair is being combed. You see the woman in the mirror combing her hair. The mirror moves from one side to the other side of the wall. Yeah. So it's the woman combing her hair, and then you see what is her daughter standing in the mirror, in her white nightgown, and her hair, she's not, the typical Samara that we know. Her hair is covering the front of her face. You can't really see her face at all. And then something quickly flashes onto the screen, and I had to pause it because I couldn't figure out what it was, and I still don't know. It almost looked like a matchstick or something. Do you remember seeing that? It was like so fast that I felt like it had to be important. So I rewound it and paused it, and I couldn't make out what it was. And I still have no significance to that after finishing the movie. So I have no idea what that is. Then you see a man looking out of a window. The ocean with a tree blowing in the wind. There's a fly on the lens, which is somewhat important later in the movie. Yeah. There's something nasty being pulled out of someone's mouth. It almost looks like their intestines are like being pulled out of their mouth or something, right? It looks so gross. Then there's like people, like it's almost like you're looking at the view of the ocean, like it's fish flopping, but it's actually people flopping in the water. Then you see a chair that's being pulled out from a table with a glass of water sitting on the table. It's like a goat or something that's limping. There's a box full of severed fingers that are wiggling. A tree that is burning. There's saran wrap looking stuff, which a lot of it doesn't make sense. Some of it is pertinent to what happens later, but a lot of it is kind of nonsense. The woman turns from the mirror and looks at the camera. And the window where the man was looking out, then it's just, he's not there anymore. It's just the window. There's the chair that was sitting there by itself. It starts spinning, but it's upside down. And then you see a ladder that's leaned up against the side of a structure, which you do see later. Like I said, a lot of these things do come up later in the film, which is part of what I like about the American one, because the Japanese one, there's not a lot of ties to the actual film, I guess. Then you see, I just wrote dead livestock because I kind of forgot later in time that it is horses, but there are horses on the beach. And then you see a woman just kind of falling forward off the edge, like a ledge in the beach or at the beach. And the ladder falls over. Then you see the well, and then there's white noise. So there's obviously a lot more going on in the American version video than the Japanese one.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I liked that when, obviously we're going to have to speak about the boat trip, but I like that how, as it went on, certain things, like she comes out somewhere and there's a ladder, to walk under, just kind of standing there. And it looks at a strange place because it doesn't really look like it's going to anything. But then, they eventually, that fucking boat scene.
I know. I saw you write that on Twitter and I was like, it's terrible, but
it's fucking traumatizing because and do you know what? Because sometimes with certain films, I'm like, I think I remember something, but maybe I'm wrong. And I knew that the horse got wounded up, and I knew that we saw the blood when it got, because it jumps overboard, and I knew it was full of blood. And that, as bad as it is, I could deal with that. It was the head, you know, when it's in the water and the head bangs against the side of the boat.
Yes,
they're looking
when it first falls off or jumps over.
Jesus Christ, that was just like, I was fucking traumatized to see
that. I know, especially being like an animal lover. So.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's so crazy being a true crime podcaster. Anytime there's something that happens to an animal or like a dog, I'm like, oh, and then the dog, and it's, people make fun of me because they're like, you can talk about people dying like it's nothing, and the dog gets kicked and you're just freaking out. But
it's a different, like, I've changed because I started in true crime like when I was like a very young teenager, so like 30 plus years ago, and I was always able to anything apart from animals, anything, kids, whatever, it didn't matter. And then I had Riley in my 40s, and I just can't. Like I've messaged people going, because because there's certain podcasts I listen to that I like listening to, and then I see an episode about stuff people do to their kids, and I've messaged them saying, how much do you include? And they're like, oh, we tell you when to skip, and I'm like, great, so I can skip, and I skip it.
Right.
It's just
I know.
It's just
the episode that I just did on Stu's podcast, there's something pretty terrible, and I read it and it was just like blip, like closed my laptop, went to bed. I couldn't even anymore that night.
Gaskins one, or what did you do?
Yes.
Yeah, Gaskins,
yes, I did Pee-wee. I just called him Pee-wee because his name is Ronald, and honestly, I don't know what is wrong with me, but if it's a name that rhymes with something, like I will call it the wrong name the whole time. So Ronald, I will say Donald. I don't know why. And it's written right in front of me, but I'll say the wrong thing. So I called him Pee-wee.
No, I'm interested to see how you guys take on that, because I've heard quite a few podcasts do that, because I listened to the last podcast on the left, because I was like, I put a message on to Stuart, and I was like, did you say, and that's the final truth? A lot of times he's like, I don't know what you're on about. And I was like, if you listen to the last podcast on the left version, like, so every 5 minutes he's like, and that's the final truth. But the way they do it is so funny, and you're laughing, and you shouldn't be laughing, but you are laughing.
Right.
So yeah, I'm quite interested to.
I have not listened to. I'll have to get on. I honestly try not to listen to other people's versions, because then I get afraid that like what they say will stick in my brain.
I won't do it. Yeah, no, I'm the same.
I don't want to repeat things. I want it to be me. You know,
I'm the same. I'm like, if I'm going to do a film or a true crime thing, I'm like, and I see someone else has done it, I'm like, I won't listen to them, because I don't want to, do that.
Yep.
But
same way.
So the lovely horse, I hated that so much. And yeah, so they go, because I think up until then, it's kind of them just kind of trying to figure out where this Samara comes from and all that kind of stuff. And it's really tragic at the end of the day. And I forgot how tragic it was, and then that
does differ a little bit on what happens to her in the Japanese versus American.
Yeah, no, it does actually. I thought it was quite different. But one thing I did notice about the American one compared to the other one, in the American one, the whole thing, I think, apart from like one scene or something, is just bleak. It's just so, the whole atmosphere, the weather, everything is gray, those horrible grays and blues and greens and stuff like that. Whereas in the Japanese one, you kind of get some nice countryside quite a bit and all that kind of stuff. But in this one, the whole time, it was just so fucking depressing, because everywhere was just like November,
Yeah, I think they used a lot of good color play in the American one, actually, because the burning tree, all like the sun goes down, it was like dramatically different. And
because it was dark all the time. It was just different levels of dark. Nighttime was dark, but during the day was just dark, gray. And I find that I was like quite depressing. And when she goes off to it's an island, isn't it, where she meets what's his name, Mr. Morgan.
Yes, Mr. Morgan,
played by Brian Cox. I feel like that's when it really starts to get interesting for me. But he's quite, I don't understood why she went. I've never understood why she went into the house so easily.
I know. like, yes, the door's unlocked, but what, you're just going to walk in and pop a videotape into the VCR?
No, I mean, before,
so
when
strange.
when she met him and she just
Oh,
goes
he
into the
just
house.
let her in?
And she's just like, okay, I'll go in with you. Knowing that he might be a bit dodge.
Yeah, true. She didn't know anything.
And he had that thing in his
hand. I'm trying to figure out what happened to your daughter.
I know.
Let me just enter into your home by myself.
I know. And then everyone does that thing, that small town or small island mentality where it's like, this needs to be left alone because, since she's gone, everything's better. And they all know. Right. They all fucking know what happened to her.
Yeah.
And then you see that depressing bedroom that she had.
Right, in the barn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. They don't go into all that type of detail in the Japanese one. That's what I said. I feel like there's just so much more going on in the American one. And I heard the opposite. I heard someone say that they left out a lot from Ringu. And I don't know what they would be talking about because I felt like it was very simplistic. No, it was different. So the one thing I remember watching this way back when was that it was at a beach with a lighthouse, that kind of thing. That stuck in my brain, right? And this one, the Japanese version, was the woman in the mirror had abilities, and she had ESP, so she could read minds, and she went crazy because of her daughter, who is named what? So the daughter, I have it as Sadako. Sadako.
Oh yeah, it is Sadako. Yes.
So the woman in the mirror, she had ESP, and then her daughter, who was born to, like, she gave birth to her daughter, which I think differs in the American one because it seems like they went away and came back with the daughter. So was she adopted? Where did she come from? Because Mr. Morgan makes the comment, my wife wasn't supposed to have a daughter.
Yeah.
So I don't know where Samara came from. But Sadako, so it seemed like the mother had abilities and then she also had abilities. And her ability was to just stare someone down and can kill them with like her look, which seems like also Samara has somewhat of that same ability, right? So they're different abilities, but she was born with the ability probably, given down the line from her mother, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
There is some differences there, but some similarities at the same time. I mean, I give them the credit for coming up with the idea of this, but I just feel like the American version was done better, in my opinion.
And I think no, I agree. Like, and I don't like thinking back. I'm not like, it's not solely because of the translation of it, but even the visual of it. Like,
definitely,
the reporter wasn't. I don't know. I
wasn't enough emotion,
more despair, more like Like I felt like the Naomi Watts's Rachel. I felt like she wasn't the best mother at the start, but you could tell that she fucking wanted to save her son's life, and she
loves him. She's just not maybe the greatest at
showing it. Whereas the other one, I saw her scream once or twice, type thing, when she thought she was going to die. When they're like, look, I might die now, because obviously the exes watch it later, so they've got a bit more time, because she doesn't understand that her copying it has actually saved her, right? And I kind of felt like it was a bit of a jumping ahead a little bit here, but I kind of felt like it was a bit cop-out. Not a cop-out, but I felt like on Samara's point that they actually killed Noah because he was helping. I feel like she should have been like, he was helping to find out what happened to me, I'll leave him be, type thing. So it was a weird one with Samara, because you're kind of torn between, look what this little fucker's doing, and oh my God, look what was done to her.
Right.
Yes.
So yes. And in both of them, like I said, I kind of forgot until I watched it again. But so in the Japanese one, when they find the well and they know Samara's down there,
Yeah.
It's a little different in each version. So in the Japanese one, they willingly go down into the well. And first the ex-husband goes down and they're pulling up bucket after bucket, one after another, emptying the well. And while he's down there, I'm like, why isn't he looking around? Because then they switch places and she immediately reaches around and finds Samara.
Because it can't be that big down there.
Right. And I'm like, he had to be like stepping on her. She had to be right there. So that kind of was like, come on, dude, look around, because she was really tired. She had been pulling up bucket after bucket, and they switch places and she immediately reaches around and finds hair, you know. And the part that is kind of freaky, and both of them do this, you know, she emerges and she looks just like a girl. Like she looks alive almost. And then she starts decaying and you see she's actually dead. So in both of them, they do that. But in the American one, I kind of had a laugh because I don't know how it happened. It's like they find the well, they take the lid off the well, and it's like something crazy happens and the TV knocks Rachel into the well.
I know.
Did you see that? I was like, wait a second. The TV like flew and knocked her into the well. But so then once she's down there, it's similar. They see the scratch marks, they see the fingernails, which that is the one thing that freaks me out when you see the Samara that arises and she doesn't have any finger. The Japanese one showed that more than the American
I thought
one.
that actually, I was
the
like,
gross fingers without fingernails and like all like wrinkly from being in the well for gross.
No, I agree. That was the Japanese one definitely did that a lot better. And I feel like almost as well, like the Japanese version of what did you say your name was? The Sadako?
Yeah, Sadako.
Yeah, Sadako. I feel like she wrong, but looked I feel like she looked a lot more scarier than Samara.
Yeah. No, I do agree. That's probably true. But I liked how when they had her coming out of the screen, like crawling out of the TV, how it was like glitchy, like like she is video here in front of you. Whereas it's different in the Japanese one. She crawls out and it's like she's there, full body in front of you. So different takes on it. But yeah, I do think the Samara Japanese version is creepier in person. But is that enough for me to say that it's a better movie? No.
no, it's not. I mean, I did like when I knew that she was going to come out in the telly, I was like, I think she's going to come out in the telly. And they did that really well. That was creepy as hell, because obviously if that happened, you know. Yeah.
And I remember the first time seeing that, and it gives you the creeps, freaks you out.
Yeah, no, it's
but the cabin, sorry to interrupt, the cabin where both versions, they find the video, the original video in the cabin where the girls were staying, the ones who died at the beginning of the movie. And I just wonder what significance that, like, was that family living on that land at that time? Because it doesn't really seem, because then they moved to the island. And so it just seems like it's a little bit of a disconnect. I don't know how that well ended up there. And that's how she got in the well.
I was the same. I was a bit, it was I think one of the problems was, and I'll be completely honest here, I found myself with both films at times kind of like losing interest. So I didn't pay, and it wasn't intentional. It wasn't like I went off to do something. I just found myself kind of like, you know, when you're watching a film and you're kind of like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be when you're at uni. I did a film degree at uni, and that would happen all the time because you're forced to watch certain things. And I was kind of thinking that with the whole well thing, I thought it was a bit, you know, but I think the American version of how she gets down there is harder to take. you know, because the way
Yeah.
the mother does it in the American one and the dad
Mhm.
does it in the Japanese one, he just walks up behind her and fucking whacks her over the head.
Right.
And you
Whacks
go,
her, pushes her over. It's kind of
Yeah.
the same thing though. It's a crazy visual because you see her standing and she just gets pushed over, like straight over, head down, feet up, plummets. And the one thing that got me in the American one is they want to see how deep the well is, right? So they drop a rock. Did you hear it hit the bottom?
No.
No, it just sounds like it goes on and on and on forever. And then when Rachel falls down into the well and shines the light up, I was like, oh, wait, there he is.
I'm not being funny. That well looked like you could barely put a person down it. Like, and if you did, they would literally, because especially, like, I mean, okay, if you jumped off of it, like feet straight down, you might have stood a chance, but there's no way you would not have been whacked all over the shop, off of every side, going down the way she did. She should not have come out of that the way she did. She just kind of come up and went, oh, a bit disorientated. And that wasn't realistic.
No. And like I said, they shine the light down. You couldn't even see water. They drop the rock. I didn't even hear it hit the bottom. And then when she's down there and shines the light up, it doesn't seem like it's down quite that far. So I don't know. That's a little, tried to make it a little more dramatic, probably.
Well, I suppose they, I suppose that's what they have to do. But but they find out obviously what happened to her, and it is quite tragic. And I mean, obviously, Samara had certain issues. Will we put it like that? You know, like the whole horse thing, like saying that she made the horses kill themselves.
Right. So I guess so in the Japanese one, she just looks at people and they die. It does happen that one time. There's like a viewing of her mother giving her ESP abilities and people are watching. And then someone stands up and says she's a fraud. And Samara from behind the curtains must have gives him her evil eye or whatever. And he dies. And then people figure out it's Samara giving the evil eye. And so that all kind of lined up. But then in the American one, it just seems to be horses. I mean, I know the mom is having hallucinations and things are happening to her, affecting her mental state. But as far as people dying, I feel like it was just the horses.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of a cop-out. Like, I mean, in reality, if you murder your child and they're like, why did you kill them? Oh, because she made the horses kill themselves. You know,
right.
That one line that you said about how he said she was never supposed to have children. I think, did he never want them?
It seemed maybe he just went along with it because that's what she wanted. She wanted a baby so badly that they went and adopted one, apparently. And then obviously things weren't going well.
And he saw an out and took it. Right.
So I made another note here that was like at the end. I feel like it was something that the mom said when all I ever wanted was you, she says, before she puts the bag over her head.
Yes.
And it was not long enough to suffocate a person.
So I
was like, come on now. Do you not know how to suffocate something? No, I'm just kidding. But really, she puts the bag over her head for like all of 10 seconds, it seems like, and then pushes her into the well. Yeah. So yes, of course she's still alive down there and suffering. And that's kind of the whole point. Then they say, how long do you think she survived down there? 7 days. Yeah. 7 days is the amount. That's the time you have from when you start the video to when you die. So I guess that, but that did not come up in the Japanese one. That was, at least I don't think so, unless I missed it in the subtitles.
And with the, after they found out the whole Samara thing and they go back and obviously Noah is about to, kick it. And she runs over and she finds him. But in the Japanese version, it's the girl that might be his girlfriend, we're not sure, finds him. But what I didn't get is when Rachel is coming down from his apartment, she sees that girl getting in the lift and going up. Why didn't she stop her?
My notes I made to that specific situation was she has 24 hours to figure out what's going on before Aiden dies, and she doesn't want to waste time. I don't know. I feel like she wants to get home because then it's funny. She comes home. She's not mad at Aiden, obviously, but she opens the door. She sees him and she's like, go to your room. Do you remember that? So he didn't do anything wrong, but she's angry. She needs to figure this out, what's happening. So she opens the door. She yells at him to go to his room. He looks startled. He grabs his things, runs, and she's trying to figure out, what did I do different from Noah? Why did I not die, but Noah died? And same thing in the Japanese one. Sorry if you can hear my dogs bark.
It's okay.
Same thing in the Japanese one. She is saved, and we know it's because she made a copy and then allows the ex-husband, Noah, to watch it. So Noah thinks he's fine. They think they have broken the curse because they find Samara and free her from
Which is fair enough.
Right. I couldn't imagine. In the Japanese one, did you see she pulled her up? She looks like a girl. The skin falls off and she's just a skeleton. She just hugs her. And I'm like, like, I know you're trying to like make her feel loved or whatever, but gross. I don't know.
Yeah,
they obviously did not break the curse.
Up until I saw the copy, I thought it was because that they had saved her, and that's why I thought she had done. And that's why I was like, well, it's unfair on Noah because he's put his, he's helped,
right?
And then you see the copy underneath, and then when she brings Aiden into the video place to make a copy, and she's like using his fingers to press
so cute,
the buttons and stuff like that. And like I don't know if I ever saw the second one. I know she's in it, Naomi Watts is in it. And
I don't really do sequels, to be honest, unless I like have heard good things about it. I don't usually watch. I don't know, not really. I mean, name a sequel that's awesome.
Scream 2, Aliens.
Oh, I know I've heard you talk about the second Aliens is your favorite, right?
Second. It kind of Silence of the Lambs is first, then Aliens and The Shining is second and third.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
I don't hate me. Never seen any Alien movie. I need to. I know I need to. I haven't watched that.
Don't start with the first one.
I really don't know. I think I've seen Scream 2 because that was like popular stuff when I was the age to be watching that. Like it first came out, and I know I watched I Know What You Did Last Summer. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. I probably watched all the Screams, but I can't remember them right now. But no, I'm not into the sequels. Maybe I need to watch them. If there's some that you recommend, I will add them to the list.
Did you watch Scream when it came out? Because you don't look old enough.
Yes. I'm 34.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, that's so 90s. You look. I thought you were like 29, 30.
I have a baby face. But no,
Scream?
Yes, I did watch Scream. That was kind of right in my high school years or middle school, maybe. Middle school. But yes, watched all the Screams. And I had a list of things to watch. And part of the reason I picked this movie, one, I really liked it, but I know you like psychological horror, and I feel like this is psychological. And when I said it to you, you're like, I don't think I really ever liked The Ring. And I was like, hopefully this will change your mind watching it again, which it almost made me like it a little less. And I don't know if it's because I watched the Japanese version or what, because I didn't know it was a remake when I watched it the first time.
Oh, really?
I didn't.
No. Oh, okay.
And so it kind of made it seem like a really unique movie. And now that I know that they like stole the idea, it's kind of a little less cool. But
I feel like a lot of things are remakes of some sort, music, whatever. You know what I mean?
Americans like to do that.
Yeah, because I'm like, people spend so much time remaking stuff. And I'm like, can you imagine all the amazing scripts that are out there that aren't being made because people listen? And some of the remakes are good. But some of them are so unbelievably crap. And you're just like, why? You just wanted a quick, honestly, it comes down to money, obviously, but like, I'm just like, but with this, like looking back on this one, the second time watching it, because like I said, I haven't watched it since it came out. I did like it more this time because I remember first watching it thinking, nah, and I was the same with The Grudge. I thought, and I just thought the Grudge was like, some fucking girl coming down the stairs going, meh, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just did nothing for me, like, do you know what I mean? But
there's the scene where Noah's working and the TV flicks on and he turns it off. It's just white noise, right? And then he turns it off and it flicks on again. And then you see the well, which the original video ends with just the well. You can maybe see a hand poking up and then it stops, right?
Yeah.
So then the video, when he's just working and it pops back on and then there's the well and you see the hand and then it goes further. That is a little bit like, oh, what's going to happen? Oh my gosh. And she comes out and you see her head poking out and you see all that hair in front of her face. It is creepy. And then she's like walking slowly towards the screen. And you can see, like I said, it's almost glitchy.
Yeah.
She's walking slowly and then all of a sudden she's there. She's like ahead. And when she comes out of the TV, it's the same thing. She's slowly walking and then boom, she's right in front of him. Yeah. It is scary.
Yeah, no, and all I kept thinking of
pruny and soggy.
Hair. When you have long dark hair, because my kid has really long hair as well, and you're just like pulling it out the drain, and that's all I kept thinking about the whole time was their drain hair.
It's gross. It's
really gross. It's really gross.
And there's like water seeping out of the TV. Yeah. And same thing in the cabin when the, right before, I think it's when they're just investigating the well and they don't realize, but the TV turns on, there's white noise and there's water dripping out of the TV. And then all the screws and nails start making their way out. Yeah. I mean, you feel like something's going to happen, right? What I didn't know is that the TV was going to throw her in the well. I even rewound it and watched it again. And I was like, how did that happen? But
I know.
Yeah,
I know some things are a bit like, but they had to get her down there some way. And I actually preferred, I mean, it was a bit ridiculous, but I actually preferred the way she went down rather than the
accidental
down that they did in the other thing. Because that bit didn't work for me.
Yeah. And it was
version.
Kind of time consuming.
Yeah,
part
exactly.
Because I was like waiting and waiting and they're just pulling up and she's just so tired and lethargic and
she passes out.
You know what pisses me off? Yeah, he's a dick about it. Yeah. Like she's so tired because she's the one. Like why on earth wasn't the opposite? He's the one with the muscles. Why isn't he pulling the water up?
Yeah.
He's like,
she's
pulling it
what's
up.
Wrong with you?
Yes. Anyway, so I guess just because then when they switch places, she's the one to find her. But again, I was kind of like, as soon as she gets down there, she reaches around and finds her. It's so like she was floating around in there the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, because in the American version, it was more realistic because she goes down there and finds her. And whereas, like you said in the other one, it's like, but the old saying, like you send your husband or male partner to look for something and they're like, I can't find it. And you're like, it's right fucking there. So she was probably right next to
fine, I'll do it. So, and kind of the annoying part to me. So the sun goes down, American version, we're back to sun goes down. Noah realizes it's past the time of when Rachel should be dead, right?
Yeah.
And he comes back to the well and he's yelling for her. And at this point, Rachel has found Samara.
Yeah.
She just she lets him yell for her like 500 times.
She takes a bit
before she's like, I'm here. It's like literally, I would be like, oh my God, I'm here. Like, I don't know. I just feel like he had to think she was dead because she was not responding. I know she was probably in shock or whatever, but
I actually thought that. I was like, why doesn't she just tell him? But I thought as well, if he hadn't died, they would have got back together because there's that scene, isn't it, when they're in the car and they hold hands and Aiden is smiling.
Yeah, he wakes up and he opens his eyes. He's sleeping, right?
Yeah.
And he opens his eyes and he sees maybe he's driving, one or the other, and they reach over and kind of touch each other's hand. And it's like, oh, maybe they'll get it together. And then he takes her home and he says, I just finished it this morning. That's why I'm remembering this like word for word. But he's like, call me tomorrow and the day after that.
Aw.
So yeah, it does seem like maybe they would get back together, but obviously Noah's fate does not allow that to happen.
So would you do you think you'll watch this film again, either of them?
You know, probably not by myself. If like my husband wanted to watch it or something, I would watch it with him. It's not like I'd be like, no, that movie sucks, I'm never watching it again. Japanese one, only if he wanted to see. But I told him it was boring because he saw me. I was watching it at night and he came out and I was like, and he's like, what? I'm like, she's gonna be so mad at me that I picked this movie. Because to me, I had high hopes for it, I guess, with all the recommendations from people saying that it was scarier than the American version. And I just did not get that from it. But there is a difference also with the very end. So Aiden, she lays down that night and she sleeps with Aiden and she wakes up and he has a sense, right? Like, what did you do? What did you do with the girl? And she's like, she's fine. We saved her. And he's like, what did you do? What do you mean you saved her? Like, he's almost upset with her. And then she realizes that we did bad. This isn't good. He says she never sleeps. And so she's calling Noah over and over and over and over, and Noah's not answering. So that's whenever she shows up to Noah's apartment and finds him in the chair, which at first I was like, they didn't show his face. What the hell? But then they do later. Which in the Japanese, the original, I don't think that happened at all. What they did is they realized they needed to make a copy, both versions. But in the Japanese one, they have someone in mind to watch their copy. Do you remember?
Yeah.
She's going to make her dad watch it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, as a grandpa, wouldn't you do that to save your grandson, I guess? So you can only, I know, but he's old. He's lived his life. You don't want your grandson to die.
No, I know, but it's still a bit shit, really, isn't it?
I know. But the American one, then they're like, they know they need to make a copy. They need someone to watch it to save Aiden. And Aiden says, what's going to happen to the person we show it to? And then that's like the end of the movie. So she's like, I don't know. Have you seen the second one?
I don't think so.
No. So maybe that's why they ended it with that without like picking who's going to watch it, because they wanted a second one. So maybe
she made her boss watch it because do you remember in it how her boss is like, you're fired, and she's like, I'm not fired. He's like, you're fired. Nah. Maybe she make him watch it.
Right. Yeah.
He was
pick someone who sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know. I didn't really feel so bad for the ex-husband in the Japanese one because he was kind of a dick.
There was
like
nothing
you have
there.
said I listened to a lot of your episodes, and there are some characters that you're just not supposed to like, and I feel like he's kind of one of them. Noah's cute and a little bit caring, at least towards.
There's something there
towards Rachel, so you do feel for him when it happens, but not so much the other guy.
It's weird, like, because I recently did an episode on Halloween, and I was like saying how I was like, I was feeling a bit sorry for Michael Myers.
Are you talking about the one with Stu?
Yeah, and he's like basically going, what? And I'm like, I felt more sorry for Michael Myers than I did. I felt more connection to Michael Myers than I did to the Asian version of him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I'm just like, that's just like so weird, because I was like,
I can understand. He's had no life. He's been
exactly. Whereas this guy's just a dick for being a dick.
Yeah.
I got no time for that.
And he even made a comment one time that was like, maybe it's better that we all die. Like, did you read that subtitle? It was like, we should have never had a child together, so maybe it's better this way. Before they actually discovered. Yeah,
that's obviously the right
I was
way
like, oh yeah, well, let's just all die and not try to save our child. That's great.
Yeah.
Good parenting.
So overall, you can watch the American version. Actually, no, do you know what? Watch both. I'm not going to tell people not to watch it, because like you said, like a lot of people have said how amazing the Japanese version is. I just didn't see that.
Right. And whenever you posted that you were watching The Ring, and I even saw someone's like, if you have a chance, well, actually what they said was, if you have a chance, watch Ringo, which I'm picturing the movie with the lizard. It's like a kid's movie named Ringo. But I'm like, is it, I have seen it as Ringu, or just Ring. And then it seems like the American one is The Ring. Yeah. Spaghetti sauce.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but yeah, I'll never watch the Japanese version again. My partner doesn't do horror anyway, but if he did, I'd be like, you're on your own, mate. You know. But
that's funny. So you guys are opposites, huh?
Me and my husband have absolutely nothing in common. Nothing.
Opposites
no, honestly,
attract, right?
Yeah, but we got on really well. Together 13 years, we get on really well. But yeah, we've got nothing in common.
My husband hates true crime, so yeah. I get you. I mean, we have a lot in common otherwise, but he doesn't. Nothing. I think he's listened to like one of my episodes.
I don't even think mine's listened to one.
Well, good. That doesn't make me feel too bad.
No. I've noticed with podcasting, because I used to do a podcast before this. I started in 2017, and the people that listen to you and the supportive ones are people you don't know, family, friends. They're fuckers. Yeah. They're not listening to anything.
I mean, my parents, my in-laws, my sister, they'll listen, but that's not like, oh, a new episode's out, I have to listen. Like some people, and it I mean, they'll listen here and there, but
well, if they listen to this one, I apologize for my swearing.
Oh no,
I'm sorry.
You're fine. Nothing they've never heard or said before.
Yeah, I grew up in Ireland, and everyone swears there, so it never left me. But yeah, and anyway, I always find it funny when, because there was a couple of podcasters and they've had complaints because they swore while they're talking about someone being brutally murdered, and we're like, well, forget the brutal murder, you swore.
Right. I know. Somebody was like, your podcast is marked explicit. Do you have a potty mouth? I was like, I'm talking about people being murdered. That is explicit. I mean, it doesn't have to be like sex or saying the word fuck. Like, it's, I don't know. It's still people under 13 is at least shouldn't probably hear what I'm saying right now. So,
yeah, no, same.
Yeah,
definitely.
Market. But yeah.
Definitely. Cool. Well, have you got anything else to add to
I don't think so. I was scrolling through all of my notes to see if there was anything important that I left out, but I think we've pretty much covered it all. It might have been a little jumping around in the movie, but like I said, it's because everything important is like the last 25 minutes. As far as scary, creepy stuff, that is. I mean, there is important things leading up to it, but so that's we jumped around a little bit, but I think we covered it all.
Yeah, no, me too. And I think that's okay sometimes when you jump around on a film. I don't feel like you necessarily need to go in order of how it is. But yeah, no, I kind of, that's why sometimes I like to ask people to pick, because I would never pick The Ring. I just wouldn't do it. So when you said it, I was like, there's only a couple of films I won't do. If someone suggests them, I'm just not going to do them. It's not going to happen. But yeah, it's nice.
I wanted to do The Purge, and my husband's like, that's not scary. And I was like, but it kind of is. I mean, do you think that's a horror film? So it's when there's like one night of the year that there's no laws. You can do whatever you want, and people go crazy, and they like,
I haven't seen that.
Murder each other. It's really good. I like it. So maybe that can be like our next one, because it's but there's like some political aspects to it too, I feel like, because it's like the rich people have all these big barricades built so they can't be attacked, and the poor people are screwed, and like, anyways, it's a very interesting film. So if you would like to record with me again, that was kind of one that I
for that
found interesting.
But yeah, no, I'd be happy for you to come on again and do it again, because it's fun having people to talk to sometimes instead of just talking by yourself.
I think so too. Yeah,
because none of my friends are into horror either, so whenever I try and talk to them about it, they're just like, no.
Well, and I like, it's not that I don't like a slasher film, but I like the different horror films, and that it's not your typical horror. I don't even know if it falls into horror category, but people are killed. It's scary. Okay. Well, I do have a list so we can chat, but that was kind of one that popped up too. My husband was like, she won't want to do that. He's the one that kind of talked me into doing The Ring, because we both really liked that when it came out. So, but yeah, we'll get together again because this was fun.
Cool. Okay. Well, do you want to just tell everyone where they can find you and stuff, and where they can listen to your podcast?
Sure thing. So you can find me just about on every podcast platform. It's Killer Stories. And then as far as my social media, it's Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok are all at Killer Stories Podcast. But my Twitter is at Killer Stories PC. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll have to maybe see if you would like to join me at some point, because so far I've only had Stu, but it's really fun to have someone else come on and tell a story and not have to write a script 1 week.
I know.
I'm looking forward to not editing. It'll be nice to just let you edit this and then
when I have someone on, it's so much easier because I don't have to write it. I just kind of like write bullet points because it's more of a chat.
Right. Yeah.
So no, that's cool. Definitely.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Well, we will chat to
you
soon. Don't you go yet.
Yes.
Okay. Bye.
So I'd like to thank Bobbie for coming on. Make sure you go and check out her podcast, Killer Stories, and rate and review her on iTunes. I'd also like to say thanks for listening to this episode, and don't forget to rate and review me on iTunes and also Podchaser. And if you want any updates and behind the scenes, you can go to Instagram as Once Upon a Nightmare Podcast, Twitter and Letterboxd as A Nightmare Pod, Facebook as Once Upon a Nightmare, email as onceuponanightmarepod@gmail.com, and I will chat to you again next week. Bye.